In this episode of the Inside BG&E podcast, we interview two of our graduates from the cohort 2025. We go through why they wanted to become engineers, their journeys at BG&E, and what they are looking forward to the most. Hello guys, and welcome to the Inside BG&E podcast. I would love for you to first introduce yourselves.
My name is Hugo. I just started in March, based in Melbourne. I'm part of both the construction engineering group and also the timber division. And yeah, those are both structural teams within BG&E.
And hi, I'm Rebecca. I am a part of the materials team in Sydney. I started back in April and I've been here for 7 months now. Yeah.
Wow, fresh. I love that.
Yes.
Before we get into the BG&E experience, I'm really curious to know whether you always knew that you wanted to be an engineer.
I took engineering because I thought climate change is a real issue that we created. And to solve that issue, we can engineer a solution to hopefully mend it for our future generations.
I think I've always been quite interested in the construction industry. I think I like building things, and in primary school, I really liked making stuff out of cardboard boxes, and then really liked playing with Lego, really liked playing Minecraft. And I ended up working in construction with my first proper job when I was doing my bachelor's. And I really enjoyed the work there, working on buildings and things like that. But the hours were a bit crazy. So I thought I'd try something a bit more brain and a bit less hours. And that was structural engineering.
Rebecca, you said that you were in the materials team, but you talked about global warming and climate action. Do you feel like you can still contribute to that with materials engineering?
Yeah, the materials that you use for whatever project is a big consideration we have to think about when building something new. For example, the team we're working on the quarter key towers, where instead of bulldozing everything down and creating something out of something new, they instead did a lot of material testing to make sure it's still viable and to build upon and build around, and it would last another 100 years. So instead of releasing a lot of carbon emissions, it allowed for a more sustainable way of creating basically a new building. But yeah, and I really appreciate that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think when you're going to choose engineering, there's so many things that students don't know about, and I think it's important to talk about these things because the first thing that you associate with sustainability or becoming a sustainable engineer is sustainability engineer. Sorry, it's climate action. But there's so many other disciplines that you can still choose that can contribute to that. So I really wanted to ask you that. Hugo, you were in construction and you were hands-on. Has that been very different to the type of work that you do here? Or is there similarities, or what's the difference between being hands-on and being in the office?
I feel like the biggest difference between the two roles is the workflows. I feel like in engineering, ideally you have a few days to think about a problem and you really sit and digest it and then think about your assumptions and then execute your calculations and then provide a clear summary of what you thought and concisely present it to a senior to review. Whereas in construction, you're just putting out fires every day. And I have my calendar and I have 10 different little tasks, which is call this person, chase them about this thing, call this person, chase them about this thing. So you're just putting out fires all day, which is a different type of challenge. And it's a lot of fun too, but I think that's probably the biggest difference between the two. And obviously, you're using your brain in a different way. You're trying to organize things and put things together and anticipate things in construction. Whereas in engineering, it's a lot more at least I find a lot more technical and really understanding the standards and make sure you're applying all the relevant clauses.
Yeah. When I joined the industry, so actually, funnily enough, my background is civil design. So I ended up in marketing just because that really aligned with myself and my other skills that I had. But yeah, when I went to do my civil design course, what drew me into engineering was the practical, I guess the way of thinking. I wanted to explore a little bit more about drainage engineering. I was really intrigued by how in here in Australia, when you're driving on a road and it's raining, like the water flowed to the gutters and like to the curves. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. So it was like the way of thinking, but also how engineers like did what they did in a road. I was like, oh, wow, that looks really interesting. I can relate to that in the sense of, develop a different way of looking at things when you're studying engineering and when you're working in the industry, like the problem solving, which is really helpful for everything. Now, I'm really curious to know, how did you hear about BG&E?
So I was quite big, a big part of my uni life was being a part of the society, my faculty society. And once we had a networking night, and that's where all these different companies came and introduced themselves to us, and they shared what they did. And that's where I met the materials team. Over there, they told me about the projects they were a part of, and yeah, because of that, I got their email and applied because I was really interested in like what BG&E had. The projects that BG&E have been a part of and contributed to. I also knew one of my professors was linked to the materials team here, and he told me about a job opening, and that's where I applied. And yeah, that's how I got to know BG&E and got in.
Networking night. That's awesome.
Networking night.
Yeah, that's really good.
I think the way I found out about BG&E was just a little bit different. I think for a bit more context, once I finished once I decided I wanted to do engineering, I quit the construction job and then started at a separate consultancy. And that was in highways, similar to we're talking about road profiles and stuff. I realized how much I hated that stuff and how much I really wanted to do structures. I made, and then, through that internship with that other consultancy, I learned, I really got a much better understanding of what the different disciplines were. And I thought I really wanted to do structures and I really wanted to do timber specifically. So I also went to a networking night, and I looked up every single company that I was attending, and I looked up their company name plus the word timber, and then found a project they were working on, and then made a note of it, and then walked up to every one of them and said, hey, my name's Hugo. I love timber. I love your project on XYZ. Can I and then I asked them some questions about that, and BG&E was one of them. So, yeah, that's how I ended up.
Wow, that's really interesting. I love how you guys found your job through networking. Like, what would you advise someone that was looking for a job as a graduate and they attended these events? What would you tell them to do before they get there?
I mean, I found a lot of success in my method, which was you look up the list of everyone that's invited. You already think of deep and hard about what you personally care about. If you care about structures, look up who the best structural engineers are. And then you find a project that they worked on. You look up BG&E, go on their website, click on projects, filter by structures, remember one of their names. You walk up to the guy or girl at the booth and you say, hey, my name's so-and-so. I really love your work on this project. Can you tell me a bit more about it? I'm really interested in the structures. And then after you show that strong interest, then you say, wow, it was really great to talk to you. I'd love to add you on LinkedIn and discuss more about this in the future. I'm on LinkedIn, send them a little thank you message, and grab a coffee with them. And then by then, you've got the referral by that point. Then you just have to have a good resume and some good history, and then hopefully nail the interview and get it.
Yeah, I agree with that. What I did was just look up their projects and what they've been a part of and what they've worked on. And whichever one that seemed really interesting, I'd talk about it with them. And showing that initiative, I think that's what really put me apart from my cohort who are also applying for jobs. But yes.
Definitely. I think the word initiative is a big one. It feels like your recipe is pretty good. Like once you've had a read about the company, what they do, what they're involved. Yeah, it shows a lot of interest from as a graduate, and I think it's good to have that before you show up to any networking event or any career fair. Because I've been at career fairs and then you get approached and they ask you a little bit, and it doesn't feel like there's no interest of them knowing what the company does or how it differentiates from other consulting firms, which I think it leaves a footprint on the person that attends that career fair, and you're like, oh, like I like that person because it shows a little bit more interest. So definitely, I think having initiative is great. How does it, in comparison to, being at uni and all of that, what's the difference between being in the industry?
Well, this is my first industrial job. Before this, I was working in the lab in UNSW. So it's quite nice to have a 9 to 5 where I come in, I do my work, and then I can clock out at 5. And it feels a bit more structured compared to uni, where you could wake up whatever time and then end up studying till like 12 a.m. or something. But yes, it's a lot more structure now, which is nice. And I've got my weekends, which is also nice.
I feel like for me, the biggest difference is I'm thinking way harder now compared to uni. And maybe that's meaning I wasn't trying hard enough during uni. I was just goofing off a lot of the time. But I feel like in uni, I'd rock up and I'd spend like, if I'm there from like, let's say 9 to 5, I'm chatting for half the time. Whereas here that I like think the whole time. And then by the end of the day, I'm like maxed out on thinking and I'm just ready to doom scroll for a bit. Whereas uni, I'm doom scrolling the whole time anyway. It doesn't even matter.
Did you have any like corporate shock, like corporate culture shock? Like for example, when I started working in the industry, I was like, oh my God, like I really like sitting down for 7 hours was a big thing for me. I was like, oh my God, like, you know, I'm just walking or moving my body because I was a waitress for background before I joined the industry. So I was like, oh, like sitting down all day. Do you have any sort of like of those realizations or anything?
Yeah, like I was working in the lab before this, so sitting down constantly and just looking at the screen was a lot different. Like there's no chemicals that I'm going, woo. But so now it's just like more sedimentary, which can be nice. But sometimes I do go to site, which is fun. It changes it up, so it doesn't feel like I'm doing a corporate job 24/7. It feels like it's a good mix. Yeah.
I think the first thing I thought of like moving or working in engineering specifically is that like there are just so many layers of knowledge to there's so many different disciplines within civil, and then within each niche discipline, there's a bunch of really, really smart people that know way more than you can even ever imagine about said topics. So I thought that was really cool. There's still a lot of learning to go, which I think is a good thing. And I think when I was working in construction, I thought, wow, these engineers are idiots. They really screwed it here. They should have thought about this thing. But now that now I'm working as an engineer, I'm thinking like, I thought about that thing and doing that would have sucked for a different reason. So trust me, this is the best option. And someone that's been doing it for 30 years reviewed it. So I trust their opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're always learning something new, which is good, learning through people as well and how they do things. What projects have you guys been working on in the past few months here at BG&E?
So in materials, there's two sectors really. So one is durability, where you work on a new project and build a new bridge or build something new, and you use modeling techniques to work out what the percentage of different components you need for your concrete to make it work for that project. And then the other section is condition reporting. I've been mainly focused on doing condition reporting, which is pretty fun. We go to site, take cores, and we use different techniques to work out what's going on and why there's an issue here and there. A big part of my role would be going to inspections and conducting like visual assessments on the material, especially on concrete, seeing the reinforcement, seeing if it's corroded or if it's still viable and everything is all right, and trying to create a report on that to give back to the client and say, this is what's going on. This could be a solution. This could be, and stuff like that. Yeah.
That's really cool because I feel like there's a few other disciplines that don't go to site that much. And I feel like sometimes it really helps you with the learning. Especially about constructability and things like that to incorporate in your design. Like as a civil designer, I didn't really go to site that much just because there is expense to it, right? But I do feel like it would have helped me understand things earlier in a better way. But yeah, it's really interesting to see how, as a materials engineer, you would, it's basically a big part of your role to go and inspect how buildings, the structure is, or the materials.
Yeah, mainly like looking at the concrete and checking if it's strong enough, taking cores. Yeah, we get a guy in to take cores and we send that off to Boral. Boral does a crush test on the cores to tell us what the strength is. And we're looking for specific strengths, and if it's not that, then we report back saying, "Oh, this does not look right, and this is your
Yeah.
problem." But yeah, and then we do a few modeling on that too, with the like results that we received, and yeah, and like help that make it more digestible for our clients so they understand what's going on.
Are your clients always like technical people, or is there different
No.
audiences? Okay.
It's usually different audiences, so it can range from other engineers to businessmen or people. So that's why we just have to understand who we're talking to. So we're not giving them a lot of jargon, and it's mainly breaking down the problem and telling them why it's happening. But yeah, in a simple way that they'll understand.
Most recently, I've been working on this timber project, which was really cool, like doing a lot of connection design, which is, from my understanding, not that common to do in Australia. It's like more like a very European thing to be really locked in on the connections and thinking about not just the member sizing. So it's really cool to, and then our code doesn't really support that connection design in Timber very well. A lot of it has to be done through Eurocode. So having to open up a new code, kind of learn things a bit from scratch, and then use your first principle knowledge to like get your forces, because there's not a lot of like bespoke software for finding out those exact things, and then applying like an international code, and then seeing what parts of the Australian code you can then siphon to then input like low duration factors. You can use the Australian low duration factors instead of the European ones. It was a lot of fun. It was really cool to like get into the weeds of all of it and feel like, wow, I'm a real engineer. I'm making some good engineering decisions and understanding the building on a very fundamental level. I really enjoyed that.
Are there moments for you too where you find yourselves like you don't know the answer to the questions they are asking?
It's probably 90% of the time.
It's definitely nerve-wracking. Not the best feeling like you don't really know what's going on. But everyone here is very, very kind, and even though I ask like a million questions and repeat myself a million times, they're very kind to explain it and help me understand the why and what we do, why we do it.
But has that ever, like that feeling of not knowing, put you in a position where you don't ask a question because you were just like too intimidated and you were like, oh, I won't ask this?
I think luckily for me, I've messed up enough things from not doing that I feel like I'm forced to then ask the question now. Like I've messed up enough by thinking, oh, let me just like see if I can fix it myself, and then I didn't fix it myself and it got worse. And like, oh, I really should have told them from the start.
Yeah,
I've learned from that mistake to not make the same one.
Yeah, I definitely try and solve the issue myself first, and then it feels like I accomplished something without like asking for help. But yeah, could have been a lot more faster if I asked someone first and maybe a bit more accurate. But yeah, again, everyone here is really nice. They don't really care that you're asking them 5 million questions.
Good.
Yeah,
that's good. So, you both have mentioned how you've had support from your team and from the organization. Do you have a formal mentor, or have you assigned someone as your mentor? Not as part of the graduate program, but I mean like just as part of your professional career.
I have my manager who is kind of like my mentor, and yeah, she definitely guides me and helps me out when I have no idea what's going on.
I guess like informally, we don't. I think it's the same thing we had. I think a lot of us would have got assigned a buddy in at the start of that program. But I have like a person that I ask all my technical timber questions to, and a person I ask most of my technical structural engineering questions to, and then fill in the gaps with whoever else is available on teams if I need to really ask them.
Yeah. Okay. But do you think having a mentor in your career is important?
Hugely. Yeah. I've got plenty of mentors. I've got some outside of this company, like some just like I've found through like university alumni programs, and yeah, definitely mentorship I'm receiving within BG&E for sure. Even if it's not a direct like official title, he's my mentor, so on. So.
Why do you think having a mentor is so important?
Because they've made all the same mistakes you could try to avoid.
Yeah.
Like I think we graduate uni like, oh, we learned so much during uni. Then you start working, you think, oh man, I really learned nothing in uni. I'm gonna start all over again. And then everyone's smarter than you. Very few of them are actually just like 100% geniuses, and they don't make any mistakes. Most of them just made all the mistakes you've already made, and then they've learned from them. So you can ask them for advice and try to make 50% fewer mistakes and then do things more efficiently. But the mistakes are inevitable and it's part of it.
That's so big. I like making mistakes. It's just like a learning opportunity. You guys do a lot of learning and development during your working hours, or is it just learn on the job? And
Yeah. So during my working hours, especially when there isn't a lot to do because everyone's working on something, a project they've been working on for a year or more, and it's a bit too hard for me to jump on. During those periods, I go on to Engineers Australia and watch different videos here and there to learn up on the industry and figure out what I'm doing and what I can do. And then if I'm not doing that, it would be brushing up on the standards and reading up on that to understand why we do what the solutions are, why we need to say this. It's because of what's in the standard, and figure out what needs to be said in my reports. Yeah.
I've had some really, really awesome learning opportunities. I think I talked to some of my peers about that. Like I'm really pleased with how BG&E's allowed me to do certain things. I think the biggest one that stands out to me is we had the World Conference of Timber Engineering is held every 2 years, and I happened to be in Brisbane this year. And I can choose now it's going to be in Canada. So it's just a cool coincidence that I was in Brisbane. We got flown out to that, sat in a hotel. We got set up in a hotel. And then for 5 days straight, you have like lectures from 9 to 5 about like everyone presenting about some cool topic that they researched, some cool project they researched in the timber industry or mass timber industry. And yeah, that was like a full week just booked to training, and that was really awesome. I feel like I learned a tremendous amount about the field. And then in a similar vein, we had a construction engineering group once a year has like a meetup, and we like share knowledge, do some presentations, do some workshops, do like a site tour. So we got flown to Sydney for that as well, and then learned heaps about some of our colleagues and some of the cool projects they're working on as well. So really cool opportunities for learning on the job in BG&E for sure.
The reason why I asked that is just because why do you think the difference between this learning, I guess learning when you're in a corporate role is different from learning at university?
I feel like in uni, because of the trimester system, it felt like I just had to memorize and study. And this time it feels like I'm learning and I'm digesting it. And it's like getting in my head a bit more deeper, which is nice. But yeah, I am taking it more into heart and trying to see it more in all the projects that we do.
I feel like I stole this idea from someone on YouTube. There's like the idea of like this web, like this mind map, and it's like a web. And when you're in uni, I feel like you just narrow down on, I'm going to spend one subject learning the wind code really in detail. But you have no idea like what are typical building shapes, what are typical building typologies, how does that affect the wind? What do you do once you have like the wind forces on the buildings and everything like that? Whereas once you start working, the web gets filled in with all the other stuff. And then when you learn something, because it fits in with that framework, I know that this wind category is applicable here because you're working in this kind of place, in this kind of region. That makes sense. I think that helps it stick a lot more, and then you get a much more like holistic understanding of the buildings or structures in general.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is that when you're like at university, you just focus on passing the subject and you don't think too much about it. You don't see it in a holistic way. Whereas when you're working, you have to. Otherwise, it's like, you become a more well-rounded professional, I guess.
For sure.
That's, interesting. What do you think your favorite part of working with BG&E is?
I love working in a highly technical role amongst highly professional people. It makes me feel like I'm learning heaps and I'm doing something really challenging and I'm pushing myself. And it's a fun place to be. And performing at high level teams always feels like a lot of fun to me. So this is a great.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I love working with my team and learning underneath them. I love when they explain why we do what we're doing and how it'll help. And I think it just feels like I'm learning more, which is nice.
I think something else I really want to emphasize, hearing us talk about how much we love learning and culture and stuff. If I listen to this in first year uni, I'll be thinking these guys are so full of it. They're getting paid they're getting paid by BG&E to do this BS podcast. I'm just here to you get a job to make money, but I feel like once you hopefully you find something you care about while you're in uni, and then once you actually care about something, It's the same as grinding like League of Legends. You don't grind League of Legends because I want to get the highest rank. You enjoy playing the game. You enjoy learning the strategies. You enjoy all that stuff, and it applies to your career as well. Like we actually care about performing on high level teams. Like if you like just playing a sports team and like playing with people that are at your level and succeeding at your goals is like a lot of fun. Well, I guess what I'm trying to emphasize is like we're not just like spieling about company culture, working in teams, or learning is so awesome. It actually is really cool once you do it about something you're genuinely curious about.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
like where you belong.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just the job's a bit more than just making money. Obviously, that's important, but you want to care about it as well. And once you care about it, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, because we are spending most of our time here at work, so it is nice that it's a great opportunity. It just feels like you're doing a lot more. You're contributing to society in a great way, but you get paid for doing that too.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of like satisfaction also, as you're saying, like, yes, money is an aspect that you worry about and you think about when you choosing your career, but it's not everything. This is one of the final questions. Where do you guys see yourselves heading next in your career?
I'm hoping that in 5 years I'll be able to achieve chartership in being an materials engineer, and I'm hoping that would lead to more leadership roles and management roles, and being able to be in charge of a team would be nice. But yeah, I'm hoping to be a part of more cool projects. I haven't touched any durability projects just yet, so I'm hoping that I'll be able to make a cool bridge and say I made that, and be a part of other cool sustainability projects as well.
For me, I feel like I just really want to focus on learning in the short to medium term, and then whatever happens. I don't know if I want to be a people leader person or I want to retire and backpack the world instead. Who knows? I just want to, while I'm here, while I've got this awesome opportunity, learn a bunch about timber and structural engineering and construction engineering. So that's my goal for the next couple of years for sure.
Is there anything about your discipline that you would like to share about, like, that is not very like widely known, that you would like to share about?
I just love mass timber engineering, and I hope it's the future. It seems sick. And I also love construction engineering. I love how technical it is, and I love how you got to use all these first principle things that aren't codified, and you're like figuring out things from scratch. Like a lot of the things you can design, you don't need a bunch of like PDFs to tell you what to do.
I can really feel how much you love timber from this whole
Yeah, I'm like, wow, I need to tap into that energy.
Concrete is more complicated than I thought it would be. I didn't realize that, like before this, I was working on batteries. I was like, just concrete's easy. No, there's a lot to concrete and a lot to like building. Civil engineering isn't the easiest engineering course you can do. There's actually a lot to it. And concrete is a big part of that. So it's fun. It's fun learning, and it's fun being a little investigator.
To close this episode, if you weren't an engineer, what do you think you would be doing?
I'd be a psychologist. I'd be a clinical psychologist.
For real?
Yeah, I think it's awesome. If I started uni, like a year or two later, I'd be a clinical psychologist. Sorry.
I love psychology, so I agree.
I guess another dream would have been a product chemical engineer, because I love skincare. I'd love to like have made sunscreen or something fun, like or I'd love to be a baker, because there's a lot of like baking is there's a lot of science in baking.
I was gonna say that's very like this processes and getting the recipes right.
Yeah,
guys, thank you so much for your time. I've really enjoyed getting to know you as people. It's been pretty fun. Thank you for tuning into the second episode of Inside BG&E. Today, we say goodbye for 2025, and we're excited for what is ahead in the new year. We'll bring more episodes about our projects, our people, and what makes BG&E truly extraordinary.